Good afternoon, Cross Timbers. Today is Wednesday, October 30th, 2013. This is Texan TV news from the Tarleton State University campus in Stephenville, Texas, and I'm Brett Heilman. In today's headlines, SWAT hosted its annual Halloween carnival last night. Tarleton Equine Assisted Therapy Treat Rodeo for special needs kids. In Stephenville, a man who opened fire in an Allsup's convenience store makes deal to get out of jail. A beloved Texas football coach dies. More than 1,000 people protest against the shooting of a 13-year-old boy by a sheriff's deputy in Santa Rosa, California. Palestinians release the second group of Israel prisoners. Oneida officials meet with NFL officials to discuss Washington Redskins' name and today's weather. In campus news, Texan News was at the carnival last night. Here's an inside look at SWAT's annual carnival.
He did the mash. He did the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. He did the mash. It caught on in a flash. He did the mash. The mash. The mash. The mash. The mash. 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 The mash.
Tarleton State University's Equine Assisted Therapy gave more than 200 kids the opportunity to be a cowboy for a day at their biannual Special Kids Rodeo on Tuesday. The rodeo included events such as stick horse barrel racing, dummy roping, and bull riding. Tarleton student organizations such as Army ROTC, fraternities and sororities, freshman seminar students, Tarleton athletic teams, and 4-H students as far away as San Antonio came to volunteer. The director of TREAT, Dr. David Snyder, said the day-long rodeo allowed children with special needs to challenge them both physically and emotionally. The Stephenville Empire Tribune reports that a man accused of opening fire inside an Allsup's convenience store has reached a deal with the state that will keep him out of jail. Joshua Brian Fritz was originally charged with aggravated robbery, attempting to take a weapon from a peace officer, and deadly conduct stemming from an incident on June 10, 2012, when he walked inside Allsup's on the Northwest Loop and fired several shots. He then ran outside where he fired several more shots into two 18-wheelers in the parking lot. No one was injured. Yesterday, Fritz and his attorney, Gary Llewellyn, reached a deal with the state that will place Fritz on probation for the next 8 years. He was also fined $1,500. Fritz pleaded guilty to deadly conduct and attempting to take a weapon from a peace officer. The aggravated robbery charge was dropped. District Attorney Alan Nash said in court, "This was a rather unusual case. There was clearly deadly conduct by Mr. Fritz by recklessly discharging a firearm in a public place. Both Mr. Fritz and the people in his path are fortunate his actions caused merely property damage and fear without serious injury or death. What prompted Fritz to open fire at the convenience store baffled investigators until a report was issued by Dr. Randall Price, who said Fritz's actions were likely the result of a psychotic reaction to a prescription medication. Nash said he agreed to probation following Dr. Price's conclusion that Fritz poses a very low risk of engaging in future violent activity if he is released into the community. Now for Texas, national, international, and sports news from the Associated Press. In Texas news, Earl Campbell thought of Bum Phillips as a second father and summed up the sentiments of many yesterday as he remembered his former coach. "There will never be another Bum Phillips," Campbell said. Phillips, the folksy Texas football coach who led the Houston Oilers during their Love You Blue heyday, died on October 18th at age 90 at his ranch in Goliad, Texas. He was buried in a private ceremony in Goliad on October 23rd. Yesterday was a public memorial service attended by dozens of his former players, including Campbell. Phillips' son, Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, says the remembrance will help the family's grief. Born Ole Andrew Phillips, Jr. in 1923 in Orange, Phillips was a Texas original in his blue jeans, boots, and trademark white Stetson, except at the Astrodome or any other dome stadium because he was taught it was disrespectful to wear a hat indoors. Phillips took over as coach of the Oilers in 1975 and led Houston to 2 AFC championship games before he was fired in 1980. He was responsible for drafting Heisman Trophy winner Campbell, the player who was largely credited with the success of the franchise. Hundreds filled Houston megachurch Lakewood yesterday night to celebrate his life and share stories about the one-of-a-kind character. The pulpit was decorated with a towering oil derrick made of red and white carnations adorned with light blue letters that spelled out "Love Ya Bum." Next to it was a much smaller flower arrangement in the shape of the Texans mascot. In national news, in Santa Rosa, California, protesters were marching against the fatal shooting of a 13-year-old boy by sheriff's deputies.
A 13-year-old boy was shot and killed by sheriff's deputies in Northern California after they repeatedly told him to drop what would later be discovered to be a pellet gun.
He was holding the weapon in his left hand. He began to turn toward his right in the direction of the deputy, and in so doing, he moved the gun toward the direction of the deputy, and the deputy's mindset was that he was fearful that he was going to be shot.
The pellet gun was a replica of an AK-47. Police showed it side by side with the real thing on Wednesday. This man was nearby during the confrontation.
He just opened the door and shoot it. 3 shots on it.
The boy was pronounced dead at the scene. Deputies also found a plastic handgun in the boy's waistband. The deputies, who have not been identified, have been placed on administrative leave, which is standard procedure after a shooting. Bob McCall, Associated Press.
In international news, early Wednesday, Israel freed 26 Palestinian prisoners, the second group of 4 batches to be released as part of a deal between Israelites and Palestinian peace talks. The decision to release the prisoners created anguish and anger in Israel. However, celebration erupted in the West Bank in Gaza Strip, where the prisoners were seen as heroes and were received by their families and Palestinian leaders. The release was part of an agreement bracketed by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. The prisoners had been behind bars for more than 20 years. One of the prisoners said he was speechless. His brother called him a freedom fighter. Thousands of Palestinians have been held in captivity since the 1967 Mideast War. In sports news, Oneida Indian tribe officials who view the Washington Redskins name as an insult will meet with NFL officials today in New York City. The upstate New York tribe, led by Leigh Halbritter, became prominent critics of the team's name after funding a Change the Mascot radio ad campaign and a symposium in Washington on the harmful effects of the nickname. The tribe began pushing for a name change recently as the Washington Redskins faced fresh waves of criticism over their nickname. Halbritter says the name is degrading and has devastating effects, especially on younger Indians. Even President Barack Obama said he would think about changing the name if he owned the team. However, the Redskins owner Dan Snyder has said he will never change the team's name. In a letter to season ticket holders, Snyder said he respected the feelings of those offended by the name, but hopes such individuals also try to respect what the name means, not only everybody in the extended Washington Redskins family, but among Native Americans too. From the Weather Channel, today's weather will be a high of 74 and a low of 67 and 100% chance of rain. Texan TV News is a product of the Texan News Service. Find us on Facebook and Twitter, and visit our website at texannews.net for all your latest news, sports, lifestyle, and entertainment. I'm Brett Heilman from the Tarleton State University campus in Stephenville, Texas.